Hi guys, I'm out working on a T4 again today, and another big job hopefully going to be finished by the end of the day is putting a big solar panel on the roof, which is something I've been meaning to do for ages, but I'm waiting for the weather to get a bit warmer, which it certainly is. And so I've just found a really easy, simple way with just using some generic found brackets and just what I think is a really easy way of fixing it, especially with the curvature of the roof on a T4. So I thought I'd show you quickly what I'm doing before it's all finished. Okay, so I've picked up this rather large solar panel, got it off Marketplace a couple of months ago. It was a really good deal. It's probably a little bit bigger than what I need, but if I'm adding a second battery at times in the future, it's going to be much better to have this bigger one than be underpowered. So it is, I think, 350 watts or 360 watt solar panel. Yes, it's almost the exact width of the van, but like I say, I wanted to be overpowered rather than underpowered. So it didn't come with any brackets or anything because it was just part of a job lot for sale on Marketplace. I found this generic packet of Z brackets off of Amazon where they just go up and under like there. Super cheap. I think it's about 9 or 10 euros for a pack of 8, and I've used all 8. I've got 3 down each side and then 1 at the back and 1 at the front. Now the only problem I came across with those brackets is obviously there's a slight curvature in the roof and the solar panel is flat. So when you put the side brackets on, 3 down each side, obviously that gap there is going to be more than the middle. So I couldn't use the same brackets. Well, I have done, but I've cut them down. So where there's normally a little shelf sort of coming out the back here, which is that bit that goes underneath, all I've done is just grinded that off and just drilled my own 2 holes here and just put in 2 more nuts and bolts there, and obviously it's created a lower gap. Now I know there should be a gap on the solar panels to help with heat flow, airflow and heat, etc. I've got about 40 mil at the sides here and about 10-15 mil in the middle all the way through, so I'm hoping that's going to be enough. I couldn't really find any specific sort of specifications on what the gap should be, but yeah, it's just a really easy way to fit any size panel really onto a T4 roof, or any roof for that matter. What I'm going to do now is I'm using some self-drilling bolts which actually came in the kit as well. I'll put a link in the description to this kit I got off Amazon. It's absolutely brilliant. It comes with 8 brackets, stainless steel nuts and bolts to actually attach the brackets to the roof, and then it comes with these self-drilling bolts with the plastic washers on as well to actually fix the brackets to the roof. Now I've actually cut the bolts down because they're way too long. They're about 40 mil long, and all I'm going through is 2 mil of steel on the bracket, so I've actually just grinded them all down. And what I'm going to do is I've kept a couple which I'm going to use as the drill bit because it's an odd sized drill. I think it's like a 4.2 millimeter or something, which I haven't got. So what I'm going to do is keep a couple full length back, just use these as a drill bit, and then because the right size hole has been made, I'll be able to go straight in with the much shorter bolts, and then I haven't got to worry about coming through the insulation in the ceiling because I've only got about 30 mil of insulation inside the van, and if I use the longer ones it's going to poke straight through that. Right, so the first job was to fit the actual cable entry, which is that white box there, very widely available on Amazon and places, super cheap. Even comes with a pair of the solar panel plugs as well, and then the longer cables I just bought separately from Amazon as well. I'll put links in toward that to make it easier. There's obviously 2 cables already attached to the solar panel, just got to make absolutely sure which one is male and female and which one's positive and negative, so they obviously match up accordingly. Because when you buy this pair of leads, for example on the positive, the red, there's a female plug this end and a male plug that end, which is a bit strange because the plugs are actually labelled up as positive and negative. There you go, see that one's positive, but obviously which way round you have them, it makes that wrong. So just made sure that that's the right way round. And yeah, the cable entry point, I have used the special Sikaflex 521 stuff, which everyone recommends for sort of camper vanning and stuff because it's a real good flexible adhesive and sealant. UV resistant, and it's great stuff. I'll show you that in a sec. So what I've done is marked out exactly where it was going first. Wanted to make sure it was under the panel because it's just added protection against water. Marked it out with a marker exactly where it's going. Then I just lightly scuffed up all the surface of the paint with a bit of very fine sandpaper, or you could use like a Scotch pad. Cleaned it a bit of brake cleaner, let it dry completely, cleaned the plastic as well, and then just the Sikaflex all the way around it, and then some smaller self-tapping or self-drilling screws. There's 5 of them in there as well, which was not pre-drilled but pre-marked where they went, so that was a nice easy job. So you get that in place. I haven't done up the actual threaded sort of clamps yet, so that I can still move the cable in and out to decide exactly how long I need them sticking out. And pretty much the same for the actual brackets as well here. Now, even though I'm using the self-drilling bolts, the ones that come with it, because they're stainless steel, I have actually just gone around and put a tiny little pilot hole in all the brackets first to make sure that it's just a bit more exact. Let's move over slightly there, but I've got all these perfectly centre on all 8 brackets. It's just a little 2mm pilot hole, because that way when you're going in with the drill bit, it's just far more accurate. You haven't got to worry about it slipping off to one side and then messing up the alignment of all the brackets. One other little thing I did do was when I bolted all the brackets onto the panel first, that was the other stainless steel bolts that came in the kit. I put plenty of good strength thread locker or thread sealant on there to make sure they never come loose, and they do come with the special nuts which are like gripping sort of nuts as well, so there's no chance of them coming loose. And also, once I've put on the side brackets, I don't think you can really see that here, but obviously they're a right angle from the factory and the roof is on the curve, so the brackets were sort of coming out slightly higher, so they weren't quite touching the roof this side, but they were that side, because obviously they're a right angle and the roof is on a curve. It was only about 2 or 3 mil, which probably would have pulled down with the screws, but rather than have that and then worry about the pressure of the bracket always pushing up against the screws, all I've done was a pair of water pliers, any sort of grips really, because it's just very soft aluminium. I just put a very slight bend in the brackets, only slightly, and as you can see now, they're perfectly lining up, touching the roof on all of them. So yeah, it's just a little thing to make sure that there's a maximum amount of contact. And when it comes to fixing these now, I've got them all lined up, they're all pre-drilled. I'm just going to raise it up on a big block or something, and then exactly the same as what I've done with the cable entry point. Cable, I've marked with a marker pen all the way around where the brackets are. Just going to scuff up the paint surface in that little area with some very fine sandpaper again, clean it with some brake cleaner, clean the underneath of the brackets as well, and then I'll go in with the Sikaflex that I was telling you about, which is this stuff. So this is the stuff, I've seen loads of people use this on campervan conversions and stuff on YouTube and that, and it is absolutely brilliant. I've done a couple of little test bits first. Like I say, it's UV resistant, weather resistant, and it's a sealant and an adhesive. It's brilliant stuff. It takes a while to go off. It's still kind of slightly tacky even after a few days, but I think that's the idea, is it's always a bit flexible. I even had a leak at the top of the window here, which was quite bad, so I just put a whole new bead in there, and that's fixed that problem as well, so that's great. One of the biggest problems I actually had with this solar panel, because I'm on my own here, was actually lifting it onto the roof, because it's surprisingly heavy actually. It's probably about 25-30 kilos, and then trying to hold that on a pair of steps and actually grill it onto the roof without scratching the roof like crazy, it was actually a bit of a task. So what I've done in the end was I've got 2 big bath towels, sort of just draped them over the end of the roof here, sort of back about a foot, and then just sort of leaned the panel up onto the roof, stood on the steps to take the back of it and made sure the front brackets are on the towels, and then you could just slide it along the roof and the brackets just sort of catch the towels and drag the towels forward, so you're holding up the back, and then when it's in place you can just obviously sit it down, go around, take the towels out. It's just a really easy way to do it on your own without scratching up the roof with the metal. So yeah, very nearly there. Just going to fix that now. That's where the cable entry comes in. That's all unfinished because that's all going to be boxed in a piece of furniture that's going up against there, like a cupboard sort of storage unit. So I've made sure all my cables come down in that area because it's going to be hidden. And eventually inside the actual storage unit I've got a 100 amp hour lithium battery and the Renogy all-in-one system, just keeping it very simple. I think it's the DCC50S, which is like an all-in-one unit. So what I've done, what I loved about this unit was hello dog, was it charges up obviously your leisure battery, and then when it's full it detects that it's full and it switches over and trickle charges your starter battery, which I absolutely love the idea of. So what I've actually just done is they recommend a 16mm cable going from your starter battery to the Renogy system. So I've actually just bought this 2-core stranded 16mm cable. It's pretty damn hefty. Only needed about 5 meters of it, so that was a big job I done last week. Was I've actually just run this cable around the back of the battery, goes underneath there, on top of the fuel tank, underneath the chassis. It's just cable tied all the way along under the chassis next to the other main cable conduit, and then it comes through the floor again inside where the storage cupboard's going to be, and it comes up through the floor there. So that's where the battery's going to be, roughly, on a little shelf there. So it just keeps everything very neat, super simple. So when it comes to actually fitting the panel with the Sikaflex and everything permanently, what I've done, because it's not going to be easy doing this on my own again, I've just raised it up on 4 pieces of dense foam. Obviously you could use blocks of wood or anything, and this is what I've done. I thought I'd show you now as well. I've just scuffed up the paintwork a tiny little bit underneath where each bracket's going to go, literally just a little bit like that. Just takes the shine off, which means it's going to adhere much better. Also, this was only waxed a couple of months ago, so I want to make sure there's absolutely no wax residue on there whatsoever. So I'm going to scuff it up, a bit of brake cleaner, make sure everything's clean, do the under bracket as well. And then, like I say, what you want to do before you actually fix the panel down permanently is obviously connect it up. It's an easy mistake to make, because once it's fixed, it's fixed. So I'm going to connect the cables up, make sure they're pulled through the right length, tighten up the nuts to make them waterproof, and then I'm going to go inside and double check I've got voltage on the other end of the cables, because obviously if there's a bad connection somewhere or something, you don't want to find out after everything's been glued and fixed in place. So I'm going to do that now, so I'll crack on. Okay, so I thought I'd just quickly show you the actual fixings of them. As I said, to show you what I meant about using one of these as a drill bit, that's exactly what I've just done. I've just gone through enough so that it's drilled a hole, and then take it out. And then you've got a perfect size hole to go in with the smaller ones that I've cut down. Like I say, it's a good size hole, 4.2mm or something, which I haven't got. So then you go in with this straight away, but before I've been putting the final bolts in, I've actually just been going in the hole with a little extra bit of Sikaflex inside and around the hole, and I'll show you why I have decided to do this. It's a tiny bit, because obviously putting a Sikaflex underneath a bracket, that protects any water going underneath and in the hole that way. But all there is to stop water going in down inside the thread is this little plastic washer that comes with the bolts, and I'm just thinking this looks like a little bit of just rigid plastic, probably a bit of plastic tube or something they've just sliced off. It's going to be from China, it's going to be cheap, crappy quality, and I'm just thinking if that's all there is stopping water going down in that hole, you know, out in the sun, I'm going to be using this van in sort of 40 degrees heat in the summer here, it's going to be sitting outside, UV is going to hit it, it's going to have freezing cold temperatures in the winter, mountains and stuff. There's no way that that little washer is going to last more than probably a year or two at the most before that just disintegrates into nothing. So you think about it, if that's in there and that little plastic washer disintegrates, you're then left with a sort of 2-3mm gap for water to just go in through the thread of the bolt, and no matter how much sealant you've got underneath, it's not going to stop it. So that's why I'm putting some in the hole, some just around it like that. Then I'm going in with the bolt, not not mega tight at all, because if you've ever used these sort of self-drilling fixings or bolts on thin metal, you'll find that when it gets to the bottom, if you go any further, it just then starts turning. It loses the grip of the thread. So it's actually better to be slightly under tight and still have all the thread than it is over tight it, and then literally you've got a loose bolt. So that's now got some sealant in there. And then to actually protect that fragile plastic sort of washer, I'm literally just going in with a dab of Secret, and yeah, I'm getting dirty. Just gonna cover that all around. I'll do it a bit better off camera when I've got two hands, but you get the idea. And then what you're doing is actually protecting that plastic rubber seal furthermore with an extra layer of Secaflex, which is anti-UV, so that's going to be hopefully way longer before that deteriorates. And then you've still got the plastic seal underneath that. It just seems silly not to do it. I know it's not pretty, but I would rather have something that's waterproof for years and ugly than something that looks nice. And like I say, I don't think it'll be long at all until those cheap plastic little washer things deteriorate and you've got big problems. Seeing as I've got 16 holes with relying on just those rubber washers, I'm not going to take the risk. So for an ugly dab of Secaflex afterwards, I think that's hopefully going to be good for years to come. So I hope that's maybe helped anyone who's doing something similar on a T4 or pretty much any other van for that matter. A lot of things really seem to be overcomplicated when it comes to fitting panels. I've seen people buy metal rails, then you've got to fit the rails to the roof and then the panels to the rails, and I thought, well, there's not really much point in doing that. I didn't see anyone that found a solution to a curved roof either, so just cutting down 2 of those brackets is a really easy way to do that. So I'll put a link to everything down below in the description. It's all been very cheap so far. Nothing's really cost me much at all. Most expensive part was the Renogy system. That was 200 euros when it was on offer. I think it's about 230 at the moment. Seems to be always about that price, which I think is a really good deal for everything it does, to be honest with you, because it's your controller, everything all in one. So yeah, can't wait to get that up and running. So I'm going to fit the panel now. I'm not going to bother filming that because you're just going to be seeing me drilling a load of holes and bolts. I'm sure everyone knows how to do that. So catch me in the next one and see what the next project is.